Welcome to Mountain Valley Today. I'm so excited to have Paul Long with me today. And so, Paul, welcome to Mountain Valley Today.
It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Now, Paul is pastor at Antioch Baptist Church, and also he has a boys ranch,
Long Ranch for Boys.
Long Ranch for Boys. And so we're going to start off this morning. And first of all, let's hear about Paul Long. Why don't you tell us about your story, so some of our viewers can know a little bit more about you.
Well, I'm here originally from this area, and you heard the phrase, a jack of all trades, a master of none.
Yeah,
So
I'm there.
I do a lot of different things, got a lot of different hats that I wear, but I'm originally from this area. I married my high school sweetheart, Christy Mower, and we been married for 20 years, and been in ministry for about 20 years. And so my sister's Rebecca Long. She's more famous than I am. She's the basketball player from five. And but I moved off to Louisville, Kentucky, and then moved into Southern Indiana about 10 years ago, and went to school for a little while and pastored a church there, and just felt led to come back to Sand Mountain. There's no place like it.
That's exactly right.
And so anyway, came back here and started pastoring at Antioch Baptist Church, and been there about 7 years. And then about 3 or 4 years ago, I had this passion for this vision that I have for Sand Mountain and DeKalb County, and which is called the Long Ranch for Boys.
Mm-hmm. Well, before we get into learning about the ranch and your desire for there, tell us how you decided to go into ministry. What was that progression like? I grew up, my dad was a Baptist preacher.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't go into ministry till I was about 9, 10 years old. And so some of my earliest memories are going to church, Sunday morning, Sunday night, revivals, singing schools back in those days. Now, that will date me a little bit. But how did you feel the call? And tell us a little bit about that progression.
Well, my family growing up were good people. They loved us, my mom and dad, but we really weren't faithful to church. So we really didn't grow up in church. We just kind of was in and out on holidays and stuff like that. My extended family was very faithful to church, and so they kind of encouraged me to go. And so when I got 16 and able to drive, that was a good reason to go to church. I could drive, and so I started going to church.
Especially if there's a girl to sit with.
Yes, there usually was, but anyway, just started going to church and just kind of started spiritually growing. Had a good youth director there that invested in me, and then I had some teachers at school that just kind of Barry Northcutt, who was my science teacher, and he kind of took an interest in me and started just kind of investing in me as a young man and those kinds of things, and that in church, and I just kind of began to feel like that's what God wanted me to do. I wasn't sure. I'd had a lot of people around me that had been announcing their call to preach.
Right.
And I don't guess you'd say I ran from it. I never really did run from it. I just wanted to make sure it was what I was supposed to do.
Right.
And so finally, God wrangled me up. And
He has a way of doing that.
He does. He's the perfect chess player. And so finally, one night I had some friends that we were supposed to be going somewhere. I had actually wasn't living for the Lord. I moved off to college like a lot of college kids.
Yeah.
And just didn't go to church. I just assumed the only church you go to is the one where you live at, and so I just didn't go. Got away from the Lord, didn't do what I was supposed to be doing, and finally I had a friend invited me to a Promise Keepers meeting.
Oh yeah, those are neat
And so
neat things.
Looking back, I don't even know why I went, but I did, and God really transformed me in that meeting and changed my life and kind of got things back where they're supposed to be at. And then about 3 months later, God called me to preach. And so I answered that call and didn't know what all it entailed. And I'm kind of glad I didn't know what all it entailed. But someone said one time, wouldn't you like to know what God's going to do with you for the next 10 years? And my answer was no. I can't even handle it in real time. So anyway, I answered that calling, and it just seemed like things began to fall in place, and everywhere God led me, it was His timing and those kinds of things. And so it really wasn't. I have a lot of friends that they say they ran for years. I didn't want to run from the Lord. I wanted to be sensitive and obedient to Him, but I wanted to make sure that that's what it was.
Yeah. Well, I always love to hear someone's progression, as God's leading them and calling them and drawing them. And, as long as you're a willing vessel, God will use you. You just got to decide. And the other thing you mentioned is people investing in you. And people don't realize how influential adults can be on young people.
Absolutely.
Especially, they may not want you to pray in school, but you can be a witness wherever you are. And that really speaks to a lot of young people.
Absolutely. I try to encourage coaches and teachers. They may not think that they have much of an influence and impact, but they have a huge impact.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, sometimes they have even more of an impact than the mom and dad does.
Yeah.
Because they're with them sometimes more hours in a day than mom and dad is. And sometimes they're a better influence on those kids because of what's going on maybe at home and those kinds of things. And so those teachers, they're on the front lines, and they've got a serious job. I know they realize it, but I don't think they see the fruit of it sometimes, and
Right.
they don't see the outcome of it.
Yeah. Well, one thing I've taught youth Sunday school for years, been a teacher for 32, and sometimes it's really important for young people to see adults in real life.
Absolutely.
Handle the good and the bad and the struggles, and how you deal with it being a Christian. Not perfect all the time, but how
No.
you try to deal with it. But I'm really excited to talk about the Ranch for Boys that you've had a passion for. So it's right over in Fife, Alabama,
It is.
close to your church where you pastor, Antioch. I was by there the other day. So tell us how God put that vision or maybe that desire in your heart and where that's come from, because I know it's a long story. But and then we'll get into how other people can be a part of that ministry.
Sure. Well, it all started about 2012, about the summer of 2012. We had, me and my family had went to Chattanooga, Tennessee, and was going to see a movie. And while we were there at the movie, I just began to feel God press upon my heart. I can't say that I've heard God speak audibly, but when He presses upon your spirit and your heart and your mind, it's when He's speaking to you. And we were sitting there in a movie, and it's a crazy thing. Being a pastor, when I hear people preach, I can usually cut them off, know where they're going. And most of your church members do that. They say, okay, he's going to preach on this passage, and so this is what he's going to probably talk about. And
Tune you out just a little bit.
Yeah, and you kind of get desensitized sometimes to that. So the way God speaks to me most of the time on serious matters is He blindsides me. I'm not ready for it. He just kind of. So anyway, He blindsided me this day at the movie theater. We were sitting there, and the boys wanted to go watch Batman, and so anyway, we were watching the movie, and throughout the movie, there's a few places where He talks about being an orphan and homeless and those kinds of things. And the first little thing, it was like God pressed upon my heart. That's what I want you to do, and so I just kind of ignored that. I thought, well, if that's really what God's speaking to me, if that's what He wants to do, maybe He'll quit asking me to do that. I ignore it. That doesn't usually work. But anyway, there's a couple other scenes in the thing. And so through the midst of this movie, I'm going through this spiritual turmoil of trying to argue with God and say, hey, this is just something in my mind. This is not the Lord. So anyway, I finally, towards the end of the movie, I said, okay, God, I'm hearing you. If you want me to do this, you're going to have to give me a sign or something. I'm not going to do this unless you can really bring this home for me. So anyway, in the movie, the last scene of the movie is Bruce Wayne's mansion is given to the city, and the city turns it into a place for boys. And one of the last scenes of the movie is a school bus pulling up with dozens of boys getting off going into this home to live. And so it was just like God just said, there's your confirmation. I've done told you that. So it was a very, to be in a movie theater, it was a very spiritual experience.
Yeah.
And really I was just broken over it because I began to think, I can't do this. I'm too busy as it is. And so as we were making our way out of the movie theaters, I could really sense the presence of the Lord, there in my heart. And I got outside the movie theater and just really was broken over what God was wanting to do. And I just had to lean up against the little marquee outside and just wept right there. I mean, just and my kids was there with my boys, and my wife comes out, and there's hundreds of people just walking all around us, and here I am leaned up on the thing, and everybody's looking at me like, "What's wrong with you?"
Yeah.
My
'Cause
wife
you just saw Batman. What?
yeah,
What?
he saved the world. Why not be happy? So, my wife comes out and she says, "What is wrong with your dad?" And Cripson and Jake with my two boys, I go, "I don't know, Mom. I don't know what's wrong with him." So she said, "Did somebody call from the church? Did somebody die? Or?" So anyway, she was asking me, and I said, "I can't talk about it right now." So one of my other sons said, "Can we take this to the vehicle right now, please?" So he was getting a little weirded out by it, but anyway.
Can we go in private somewhere?
Yes,
You're
yes.
embarrassing me, Dad.
So,
Kids say that about the
Yeah,
parents.
yeah, I love the realness of kids. But anyway, we got to the vehicle and we began to drive, and it was just really quiet in the vehicle. And I began to explain to them about Trenton, what God had been speaking to me about. And they were like, "Let's do it." God had already been working on their heart. Of course, one of my sons said, "Dad, don't you think that's kind of strange that God would speak to you through a movie?" And one of my other sons said, "Well, he spoke through a burning bush and a mule and a."
Why not a movie?
Yeah, why not through a movie? So anyway, and I always, usually when God speaks, He'll confirm it,
Yeah.
not just in the moment, but time after time
Yeah.
after time.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know where to start. Somebody said, "I bet you was really excited when you knew what God wanted you to do." And I said, "Not really. I wanted to throw up. I was sick to my stomach because I began to think, how am I going to pay for this? But I just knew that if God guides, He'll provide."
Yeah.
And so we just started taking those small steps, forming a board, and I started praying about the people that need to be on the board because I didn't pick people that were, I guess, the most qualified. I picked honest, trustworthy people that I could trust.
Mm-hmm.
That if I gave them $10, that $10 would get where it was supposed to go to.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
but those people that we do have are qualified. They've got good qualifications. They're good folks. A lot of them have worked with kind of things that we're doing. But anyway, we come back, formed a board, just started praying, started sharing the vision with people. Folks started getting excited about it. There's a lot of things that I've shared with people about, but when I talk about the Boys Ranch, their eyes light up because they know how big of a need it is in our area. And so we just started fundraising and just started sharing with people. We started the Old Timers basketball tournament and the Old Timers football game.
Yeah.
And we've done some other fundraisers, done some fun stuff. But we bought our first piece of property, which was 20 acres. And I told the Lord, I said, "I need to know where to buy this," because we were going to either do it in Rainsville or do it in Fife. I was trying to keep it centralized in the thing.
county.
And I actually even put a thing on Facebook, if anybody knew where any land was in Rainsville or Fife, to please let me know, and never got anything. And was standing at church one day, and somebody in our church had said something about, "Why don't you buy the property across from the church? It's for sale." And it's about 22 acres. And so I began to check into it and got a great deal on it. And so it served two purposes. It was close there to the church, and it was across the road, so I wasn't having to drive to one end of the county and all that kind of stuff. And so it has nothing to do with my church, and the church has nothing to do with it. It just happens to be across the road, and I happen to pastor the church. So that worked out. We bought that. We began construction on the house. It's about a 4,000 square foot home, 6 bedrooms, 3.5 baths. Got a large barn. They're in construction right now, building a large basketball court for the kids. We've got cattle that's going to be coming. That's all been donated. All the fencing has been donated. And all this stuff, we're totally debt free. We don't owe anything.
That's amazing.
And
That's
so
amazing.
just anytime, there's never been a statue erected to a critic. Anytime somebody sets out to do something big or try to accomplish something, there's always people that will be there to say, "You don't need to do this. This is crazy." I actually had somebody that came to me, a friend, and said, "You're crazy for doing this. The economy's in a shambles. You'll never raise $50,000. And I said, "Well, maybe I won't, but maybe God will." and we'll just wait and see. So the only thing I need to do is just try to be obedient with what I had.
Yeah.
Not get overwhelmed with the big picture, but just work on. Don't try to cut the forest down, but just cut maybe the tree down one at a time.
Yeah.
And so as we did that, we just seen God just time after time, and it seemed like any time we got discouraged or felt like, man, I don't think this is going anywhere, it's like God would just send somebody. I had a little couple in our church. They had just graduated from college. They were living in a little house, and just like any young couple, you know, they were probably struggling. They came to it. They were the first ones that said, "We feel passionate about this. We feel like God wants us to give to this." And so that little couple that had just gotten married, just gotten out of college, wrote a check for $5,000 to the Long Ranch for boys. And that was the first thing that got us started, because I was like, I don't even have money to get brochures, anything. And I said, God, you're going to have to send something. And so he sent it through that little couple. Another discouraging time later, it was like I had a lady in our church call, and she said, Brother Paul, God's really laid this on our heart. Very unassuming couple, came and gave us a check. To my house, and I just stuck it in my pocket, because I really don't look at them at the moment, because it doesn't matter if it's $20 or $2. You know, I just prayed for them and thanked them for their generosity and stuff. And so went back to the bedroom to do something, took the check out, looked, and it was a check for $20,000.
Oh, wow.
And so God has just done things like that over and over and over. And it seems like every time he does that, he reminds me, the Long Ranch is mine, it's not yours. I'll take care of it. And I really, through the whole thing, have not really worried as far as the finances, because if it's God's, he'll take care of it. I work hard. You know, I don't believe God wants us to be lazy.
Right.
But I work hard to support the ranch and raise money and those kinds of things. And so just those things. And one thing God told me when I started this thing, never take credit for anything at that ranch. You always give me the credit for it. And as long as you do that, I'll take care of it.
Yeah.
And so that's what we try to do. I tell our folks that work with us and help us, don't you ever take credit for anything. You always point it back to God and what he's done, and thank him for it. So it's been amazing to see what all's happened.
Well, now tell us, what's your first plan? I mean, you started, you had no place to build it, no money, so you've got 22 acres, you've got a barn, you've got cattle, you've got a house. So where are you as enrolling young men to come and stay there?
Okay. As of right now, we have house parents that's living in there. Justin and Brandy Bynum. They're living there full time. That's their full time job. And so if somebody calls and says, hey, I've got a child that needs to come there, then we contact them. We go through an application process to make sure that they're a good fit for us and we're a good fit for them.
Right.
So basically, where we get our kids from is from word of mouth. People will call us up and say, hey, I know of so-and-so who's got a niece or not a niece, but a nephew that would do good at the Long Ranch, I think. And so we began to do the kind of interview process. Some kids we're not able to help. It's just, some kids have deep psychological issues and we try to refer them on maybe to somebody that can help them.
Mm-hmm.
But we got a call about a month ago, about a young man that they had found basically in Huntsville. His father had died, his mother had committed suicide. When they found him, basically all he had was duct tape around his waist. And come to find out, he had been sex trafficked to men by his mother. And stories like that are not... they're not uncommon, and it goes on. You'd be surprised at the stuff that goes on in DeKalb County. If you would go down to the juvenile court system, you'd see some of that, and it's actually heartbreaking. And so, there's some situations that are a little bit way above our head as far as dealing with. But as long as a young man has not physically assaulted somebody. Those kinds of things, then usually we can help them and they can come. And so right now we don't have anybody in the ranch. We've actually just opened, been ready to go, and we're just getting the word out to say, hey, we're here, we're available, contact us and we can see if we can help you out. But they go through just a simple interview process. I meet with them, meet with the parents, and just to make sure they're a good fit.
Right. Well, how can people? I know financial contributions are always helpful,
Absolutely.
but what are some other ways people can get involved to support the Long Ranch for Boys?
They can do all kinds of things. We have, I've got a little group from Tenbrook that called me. They have a little girls meeting that they do once a month. And what the lady does there at the Methodist Church is she takes the girls on Wednesday nights or whatever, and she teaches them something like cooking or sewing or those, things that kind of are important, in life.
They are important in life. Cooking, sewing, cleaning,
Yeah.
mowing grass.
Yeah. So, but those girls hand sewed some pillowcases and donated those to the ranch. We have people that Kenneth Black has been very helpful in. I put him in charge of our cattle program, and he got all of our fencing donated. He got all of our cattle donated. We've got about 9 pairs of cow and calf that'll be donated there to the ranch. We've got hay and stuff donated. And so it's not just necessarily people just saying, let me open my wallet and give you money, but it's people that have some influence that says, hey, I know somebody that can help you.
Right.
And they go and start working on behalf of the Long Ranch. And so we have people that volunteer to work on the board that does the Long Ranch football game
Yeah.
and the basketball game and stuff like that. And so, and of course, we just have people that says, hey, I can't do anything, but let me give you a donation. And most of our donations are not just gigantic donations. They're just $30, $40, $50, those kinds of things. People that have a real passion for that, and they say, hey, I really believe in this. And so we have people that come down there and help us mow.
That's a valuable thing.
I think they need people to help pick beans right now.
Do they?
Yeah, we've got actually it's going to be a functioning farm.
Okay.
They'll have their own food that they'll grow. They'll do they're going to try and be self-sustaining at some point, and they'll actually be selling produce at some point.
That's great. Chickens, I'm sure you could use some chickens.
Yes, we had chickens. They don't last very long there because they're eaten just like anything else. As a matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago we had a meeting party, which means some of them no longer with us, and so that's the thing. We try to be self-sustaining, and so to keep the food costs down and those kinds of things, and it teaches the kids about farm life. We're going to have a milk cow, and they're going to learn to milk cows and that kind of stuff, and it's not really cost efficient.
Yeah.
But it's life efficient. It's teaching the kids some responsibility. There's something about the farm life that's therapeutic. May not seem therapeutic at times, but it is. But anyway, that's what's going on at the ranch right now.
Well, where do you see the vision going forward? What are you just taking it a day at a time and seeing what happens, or does God give you a bigger vision? Like, do you see? I know that's hard to ask that kind of question, but I know if God spoke to you like that in the movie that you saw and gave you a vision, He gave you a big vision.
Yeah. Well, my vision is not only just for a boys' ranch, but a girls' ranch also. And I believe that our influence should not just be in just one area. I would love to see this statewide, homes that would help children. We have a lot of great organizations that are doing that right now. And so just trying to find a niche where we can be helpful in that area, because it's kind of like churches. Every church is different, and every church has a different ministry and different area that they're good at. And so we try to just be different, but effective. And so like we have the Alabama Baptist homes. I think the Church of God has some kids' homes and different things like that. And so my goal is as big as God wants it to be. And it could be statewide, nationwide. I don't know. I'm limited, but God's not, as far as what I pastor a church. That's my first calling, my first priority, and my family. And so I just kind of wait for God to lay the pieces out. There's things that I wanted done immediately. I'm a get it done yesterday person.
Yeah.
And
I can relate to that.
And I've learned a lot through this on patience. I've learned a lot on dealing with people, because sometimes people they're afraid of what they don't understand. you know. And so just trying to help people understand what the Long Ranch is and what it is, it's been important. And so it's as big as God wants it. That's how big I want it to be. And like I said before, it doesn't belong to me. It's the Lord's.
Yeah.
I may move away from this at some point in the future and start another venture of something totally different. But I just have a heart for helping, I guess, the downcast.
Yeah.
And those who have been abused and abandoned. And that's really what the Lord calls us to do, is to help those. Not give them a handout, but give them a hand up and give them an opportunity. So that's what I want to do.
Well, let me ask this. Can people come and tour the facility?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's give them some contact information about how the people can call you or get in touch with you, where it's located, and how they can go about jumping in and being a part of this ministry.
Okay. All you got to do is go to Facebook. Of course, that's where everybody in the world's at, is Facebook.
Well, the older people are.
Right.
The young people aren't there.
Right. They're trying to get there, though.
They're trying, yeah.
But anyway, you can find us on Facebook, or you can go to our website, which is longranchforboys.com. That's www.longranch4boys.com. Or I can tell you where it's at, and you can come down and visit. Just go from Rainsville, go 25, come to the only red light.
Only red light there.
And turn right, and you'll go 3.3 miles, and it'll be right there on the right. There'll be a big rock entryway. It says Long Ranch for Boys. It's directly across the church from Antioch Baptist Church there.
Yeah, just ask anybody how to get to Antioch Baptist, and it's right across the road.
It's very easy to find. Just go to 5, turn right, 3.3 miles.
Well, man, I really appreciate you coming and sharing what God has done in your life, and I just can't wait to see what happens with a Long Ranch for Boys, where it goes and what God does and blesses it. And I hope that you'll get involved in the ministry. First of all, pray.
Absolutely.
And then see what God would have you to do. Either financially contribute or help your organization get involved. And as you said, something that just, struck a chord with me. It doesn't really matter if it's $10, $5, $100, $1,000. Little is much when God is in it.
Absolutely.
So it's been nice to get to know you. I've heard about you for a long time. First time I got to meet you, so I've really enjoyed it. And he does a good job preaching out here down at Antioch.
Well, I don't know about that, but
and that was a free plug.
There you go. Thank you.
Thanks so much for watching Mountain Valley today. We hope you'll join us again. We're on Farmers Telephone TV, Channel 6, and we're also on WFPA 1400 in Fort Payne. And we look forward to seeing you again. And don't forget, mountainvalleynewspaper.com. You can watch any of our episodes we've aired previously.